So let's see. First question is, hello. My question is for a 2018 TTRS. What stiffness settings would you recommend for your front and rear sway bars to track Sonoma Raceway? I heard arguments for both stiff and arguments for soft, for front and blah 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 blah. I wanted to hear your thoughts.
What year TT?
A 2018
2018.
as a
The alignment will actually affect that a lot too. It's not just in the bar settings, and it's going to depend a lot on your driving preference. Um, that's a tough one to answer. I mean, I like the rear end to move around quite a bit. So we tend to go fairly stiff on the rear with a pretty neutral toe in the rear as well. So under compression, that'll actually get you a little bit of toe out almost. And that really gets the car moving around. It is a lot more lively, and you've really got to be on top of it when you're driving. Because braking, it's going to wiggle a lot. You get into corners, it's going to feel like the back end's like
yeah,
it's just a lot more movement before it really takes a step.
it's less stable.
Yeah, it's less. Saying that it's less stable. It's just if you're not ready for it, if you don't know what's going on entirely, it can be more unnerving. So I would say work up to.
Or unstable.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can. Yeah, I would say work up to it. So if you're asking these questions, I would probably start soft and just work your way up. The bar is the easiest, adjustment you can make.
Yeah, so we Sean, can you double check on any of these product pages? We should be listing our setup, the RS3 setup, which I think is pretty close to
Yeah,
It's
what
pretty
the
darn
PTRS
close,
would
yeah.
use as well.
Yeah.
people don't like it too much for the streets sometimes.
No.
This
Which is
more
which is why I mentioned stability. A factory alignment is designed to drive straight down the road with no wiggling or movement and produce stable turning inputs, smooth, predictable response in the car. What that gives you is a car that pushes, that doesn't really want to turn when it's at the limit of traction. And so when we bought, I think you were around when we bought that Mark IV race car.
Yeah.
So years ago, like in 2005, 2006, we bought a Mark IV Jetta race car that had been built, and it was racing in Grand Am or SCCA, something like that. And this was a very fast setup. Like I said, it was a real race car, had fully fabricated suspension, complete adjustability, and it came to us set up, just how it was from whatever the last race it was in. And I hopped in it, and we started, and we used to be a few miles away in a kind of a different industrial complex before Tesla moved into Fremont, and Fremont was kind of like a ghost town. So we would go ripping around town doing 100, 150 miles an hour wherever we wanted. Nobody really said anything. And so I went ripping down. I got in the car and kind of went around the block and came down to the drag strip and got on it. And this car was so hard. I'd never driven anything like this. The car would not go in a straight line. It would either turn left or turn right. And so the process of going straight was basically like a closed loop algorithm where it's like left, right, left, right. There was no holding the steering wheel in the center. So it was just going straight was just doing this and sort of just micro wiggling down the street in a straight line. It's because the car had massive amounts of toe out, and I don't know what the rear alignment was, but it was nothing that would make you feel stable.
Yeah.
Now the car was very fast on track. This all resulted in it wanting to turn, having high levels of grip through the corners and things like that. So the alignment setup that we list on the website, like Sean said, is not going to be enjoyable on the street. It's going to be twitchy, darty.
It's not that extreme as what you're describing.
No. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, it is going to be much more lively.
I think this car had like 2 or 3 degrees of toe out,
Yeah.
which helped it turn because when both wheels were kind of turned to half lock or whatever. Yeah. It resulted in whatever alignment it is. Huge compromise. And on a racetrack, you don't really care about going.
No, and you can watch these on most like front wheel drive or most touring car setups and whatnot. You watch those guys going down the straight, and those cars are just like they're darting, they're moving. Like there's never just a simple locked in straight input that gets them down the straight.
But a lot of this comes down to what you're comfortable with, and by going really stiff in the back, the car will want to turn or oversteer, especially when you get off the throttle or you get onto the brakes or anything like that. That can be very uncomfortable and unnerving, depending on what your driving level and skill is. For really, really good drivers, you're basically driving the car in a constant state of being out of control. You know, the car is literally in a controlled slide. Um, you know, and if you put anyone else instantaneously in the driver's seat in any of these races you watch where these guys are flying through corners, you put average Joe Schmuckatelli in the seat, you know, you teleport him into the seat, and the car's literally just going right off the corner and crashing because these drivers are keeping the car in a state of you know, the limit or just past the limit of adhesion or traction for the tires. So ultimately, play with these settings are adjustable. Play with them if you'd like to find out what you like. I would always recommend starting soft and then going stiff.
Yeah.
Um,
Particularly at tracks like Sonoma.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's a technical track that doesn't have a lot of forgiveness in a lot of key areas. So yeah, generally err on the side.
Yeah.
If you're not sure what you're doing or you're not sure of the car, you're still learning the setup. Like I said, work into it, and yeah.
but contrary to popular belief, what's fast on track is not what's the stiffest. It's
Yeah.
actually very softly sprung and very compliant suspensions have a lot of grip and traction.
Yeah.
So this kind of boy racer idea that you just put everything to full stiff, you go bouncing around the track.
Well, it's going to depend immensely on your tires, and you know, tires alone will dictate spring rates quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just the way you're able to load up and you know, transfer the energy into the tires and the sidewalls.
Yeah, in fact, about half of the spring rate in the suspension is in the tire, you know, of what the car needs for compliance. A lot of it's in the tire.